So in this video, I want to take you through the impact of dating a dismissive avoidant attachment style and also give you some strategies for what you can do if you find yourself stuck in a relationship and don't see things improving. And it's really important to keep in mind that every relationship we are in has some sort of impact on ourselves. Like we really rub off on each other in relationships. And so if somebody's not meeting you halfway, doing the growing with you, working through things with you, then it can cause a negative impact on how you psychologically and emotionally feel, not just in the relationship, but also in your everyday life. So, we're going to cover some really important things to keep in mind here. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with dismissive avoidance, dismissive avoidant is a type of attachment style or love style. Every single person has an attachment style. There are four major ones. And the dismissive avoidant is the one that tends to be the most avoidant in relationships. They may fear commitment the most, fear opening up the most, struggle to be vulnerable. And a lot of this is not their fault. It comes from a lack of emotional connection and healthy emotional expression in childhood, being valued and validated. And it leads them to close off that part of themselves, which makes it really hard to build intimate connections in relationships, especially in romantic ones in their adult lives. So, one of the first things that you want to know is that if you're dating a dismissive avoidant and if they're not working through their attachment style or trying to meet you part way, then it can cause you to feel disconnected and alone in the relationship. And if you're not doing something around this, so if you're not meeting your own needs, meeting your needs in healthier ways, expressing your needs to your dismissive avoidant partner, and setting a deadline to see if they're going to show up and make compromises and listen to what your needs are and pay attention and be present with those things. If none of that's happening, then over time it can actually cause you to also feel emotionally more shut off, also feel lonely while in a relationship, experience feelings of sadness, and just struggle a little bit more to feel like relationships can be healthy and fulfilling. And that, again, won't just impact you in the relationship, but also you as a human being in your friendships. It will spill into other areas of life and it can cause you a certain degree of emotional turmoil. Now, I want to be really clear here. This is not me saying that dismissive avoidance can't change. This is not me saying any attachment style can't change because they can. And I have seen this thousands of times with every attachment style, including dismissive avoidance. But what this is me saying is that you want to set a healthy deadline for how long you wait for change to happen while pouring into the relationship using strategies that you see on this channel or in our courses to be able to see that needle move. And if you don't see it move, that's when you have to realize that, you know what, these are going to be some of the impacts I'm exposed to over time if this person doesn't change. So that's really what we're focusing on here in this video. And this brings me to point number 2, which is if you're not seeing your needs met, and if you're expressing them and sharing them, it can cause you to really feel preoccupied about the person or relationship and distract you from other areas of your life. I've seen many people over time, especially more anxious leaning love or attachment styles. Um, I've often seen more anxious leaning individuals get so preoccupied and fixated on their more avoidant leaning partners and relationships that they don't focus on their career goals. They don't focus as much on how they can enrich the relationships with their children. They don't focus on like what makes them feel happy, what would make them feel more fulfilled in their lives, in their family relationships, because they're so preoccupied with their unmet needs over here. But rather than like setting a deadline and seeing if the needle's moving and trying to express their needs more, see them through, build healthy patterns of acknowledging each other when we do meet each other's needs. Instead of doing that work, they just stay fixated on what's not working. And it can really rob them from using that emotional energy to invest in many other areas of their life, their own personal growth, their own other relationships with friends, family, etc., their own career goals and dreams. And so it can just cause somebody to really drain out their life energy if they're not paying attention to this. And if you find yourself in that position, it's really valuable to look at why. Like, me as a person, if I keep investing in somebody who's not investing back, why is that happening? It doesn't make that person a bad person who's not investing back, but it may make them not the right person for you and for what you're looking for. And in a lot of cases, when you express your needs, you share your boundaries, you acknowledge when somebody does put in the work, and you're showing up. A lot of times, dismissive avoidants show up back, but also sometimes they don't because their fears are too big or they're not ready to do work. They're not ready to be vulnerable. And if you're in that position, why have you listened, or why have you not listened to that, right? Why have you not taken that person's actions and seen, like, if you're not being fulfilled, if you're not happy, why do you keep sticking around? And it's worth looking at how much self-love you have, because we tend to put up with, in other people and other relationships, how we treat ourselves. It tends to mirror and reflect back to us our subconscious comfort zone and what feels familiar to us, what feels comfortable to us in terms of what we think we're worthy of and deserving of, and how we treat our own feelings and needs tends to be what we're okay with accepting in terms of how other people treat our feelings and needs. So it's just an important point to sort of pay attention to. Especially if you're feeling impacted by the relationship not being the way that you would hope. And if you're not seeing the needle move despite having important conversations. And if you're struggling to self love, you can actually check out, we have a self love course you can check out for free for 14 days that actually teaches you how to improve your self esteem, learn what your needs are, meet your needs, and feel empowered, not just in the relationship to yourself and being compassionate to yourself instead of beating yourself up all the time or being unkind to yourself and your thought processes and internal dialogue. It teaches you how to move through all those different things, and it will actually change your set point of what you're willing to accept in relationships. Okay, so this brings me to point number 3. It can actually cause you to feel closed down over time. If you're with a dismissive avoidant for a very long period of time, and again, I want to be really clear. Some dismissive avoidants show up, rise to the occasion, do the work, and you grow and become secure together. Some dismissive avoidants are not willing. And in the case that somebody is not willing, if you're with that person for a long period of time, it actually can cause you to become more avoidant over time and shut down, especially if that time is really extended, like across years and years and years of being with somebody. And point number 4, it can create deepening of pre-existing wounds if things don't change. If you feel unloved, if you have a wound around feeling not important, or like I don't matter, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, you know, again, those are your wounds to do the reprogramming work around and to heal and to fix and to transform. But also, if you're constantly exposed to somebody who's reinforcing those wounds by not showing up, then that can also cause a deepening, because the subconscious is programmed through repetition plus emotion. So whatever repeated exposures we have to things can just fire and wire more neural pathways from that perspective. So it's really important to pay attention to that, and to be mindful of that and how you're being impacted if somebody's not willing to change. So again, some dismissive avoidants do, and they're incredible, and they show up and the needle moves and it deepens the relationship. Some don't. And you have to decide what that deadline is for you, what's healthy for you, what your needs are, what your boundaries are. And if you're really struggling, you can check out that self-love course. It's for free for 14 days using the link below that will help you have that breakthrough in your self-esteem, self-awareness, and self-understanding, so that you can really create those standards and uphold the standards that you're needing and looking for in relationships once and for all. And that will create more fulfilling connections. So I hope this makes sense. Thank you so much for watching and for listening and for being here. If you enjoyed this content, I put daily videos out here about the subconscious mind, healing, relationships, attachment styles, love styles. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss any. And I will see you in future videos.